Okay, team, can I call the meeting to order, please? It's now 17:15. We start our meetings with a land acknowledgement, and I'll read that this evening. The land on which the city of St. John or Manequist is situated is the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik. The Wolastoqiyik, along with their indigenous neighbors, the Mi'kmaq and Pescatawakami, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s that protected their rights to lands and to resources. So let us pause for a few moments and reflect. Okay, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. Okay, before we get started, I'll just mention that we have Councillor Stewart who will be coming in online this evening. So City Clerk, over to you for the next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is number 2, approval of the agenda.
Approval. Thank you. Councillor Sullivan and the deputy on the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next, disclosures of conflict of interest, if we have any.
Not seeing any. Next item.
And next is a report coming from Committee of the Whole 4.1, tentative collective agreement, QP Local 18 outside workers.
Commissioner Hossack, over to you for this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Your Worship, and members of Council. The purpose of this presentation is to present for Council's approval a proposed renewal of the working agreement between the City of St. John, New Brunswick and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, QP Local 18, outside workers, for the term of January 1, 2025 to December 31st, 2029. The employees of this workforce deliver direct customer-facing services as well as internal services, with some services being offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Services range from the collection and treatment of wastewater to the distribution of safe, clean drinking water, mowing of parks and ball field maintenance, to plowing streets and patching potholes, to the maintenance of the city's fleet of vehicles and equipment, to the collection of garbage, and more. These frontline services are critical to the citizens of St. John. On November 14, 2024, on the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, Council approved a negotiation mandate and authorized the CAO to proceed with collective bargaining with QP Local 18. The approved negotiation mandate recognized that the operation has evolved since previous negotiations, and there must be continued commitment to fiscal sustainability and service delivery. Collective bargaining started on January 16, 2025, and concluded with a tentative agreement on May 26. This afternoon, with the recommendation of the union's bargaining team, members of QP Local 18 ratified the tentative agreement. The strategic goals of the city's bargaining team for these negotiations were enhancing structural flexibility, increasing employee productivity, and maintaining financial sustainability. and stability. I believe we have achieved these goals with the proposed agreement. I would like to take a few moments to highlight the updates to some terms of the agreement. Article 604, Establishment, updated to simplify the language with the adoption of the current agreement to maintain a minimum of 235 bargaining unit positions for the term of the agreement. Article 1004, Temporary assignments for permanent employees, addition of language providing greater flexibility to fill positions on a temporary basis for the duration of a long-term absence. Article 1102, Timelines for posting and promotions, addition of language providing the ability for faster turnaround times for temporary vacancies. Article 1402, shift differentials, addition of language to distinguish eligible compensation when an employee is working nights versus evening shifts, and clarifying the exclusion of stacking of differentials by an employee. Article 1406, overtime, addition of language providing an incentive for employees to work as required on Christmas or Boxing Day holidays. Article 1408, overtime meal allowance, an increase in meal allowance while working overtime from $14 to $15 per meal commencing in 2027. Articles 1503 and 1507, statutory and proclaimed holidays and entitlement, housekeeping changes, and clarification of language of holiday entitlement to reflect current entitlement. Article 1702, reporting of injury, updated language to reflect the current reporting requirements. Article 2105, tool allowance, fleet service technicians, increase the tool allowance to recognize the increased cost of purchasing tools. Article 2315, sick leave bank allotment, change to language to limit the obligation of the city to pay sick leave to newly hired employees who are unable to attend work due to illness from the sick leave bank. Article 2317, extension of sick leave, change to language to provide the ability for newly hired employees to borrow sick leave to a maximum of 120 working hours, which must be paid back to the city. The collective agreement has been updated with a variety of housekeeping measures. And finally, the 5-year term incorporates a fair wage package. The proposed wage increase provisions over the course of the term of the new agreement would be, for 2025, 2% effective January 1 and 2% effective July 1st. For 2026, 3.5% effective January 1. For 2027, 3% effective January 1. For 2028, 2.5% effective January 1. And for 2029, 2.5% effective January 1. I propose the following recommendations to Common Council. Ratify and approve the tentative agreement between the City of St. John and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE Local 18 outside workers, and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute the collective agreement on the terms and conditions as generally presented to Committee of the Whole on June 9, 2025, and any documents auxiliary thereto. I would like to recognize and say thank you to those at the bargaining table. Everyone worked hard and was professional and focused on reaching this agreement. Ian Fogan, Kevin Lockery, Andrew McGuire, Stephen Gould, Daniel Grant, James Thibodeau, Chris Bacon, and CUPE National Rep Michael Meehan. It was not always easy. However, negotiations were always respectful, and I sincerely appreciate the dedication and professionalism of the entire team. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. This concludes my presentation.
All right, we've got a couple of questions or whatever. Deputy, over to you first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much a question as a comment. I'm really impressed, very impressed with both sides in this bargaining table, because to come to an agreement in 11 meetings, that shows commitment, dedication, and professionalism. And I thank you all very much for that. And with that, I would move that recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy. I'll take a seconder on it. Councillor Lowe. Over to you, Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with Deputy Mackenzie. It's really great to see it looks like a real partnership coming to fruition there. And I wanted to make mention, because it really needs to be said, Local 18 took zeros when the city had asked for people to try to help the city out so that we wouldn't have so many cutbacks. And if they hadn't done that, I think taxpayers would have seen more cuts than the $10 million that the last council had to do. So big thank you to Local 18 for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Norton, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Congratulations to the team. It's also it's good to have Mr. Meehan back in a familiar post, and he does good work. I'm just wondering, Stephanie, maybe for anybody that's watching or for how it might get captured, what can you put it in simple terms? What could the public, or I guess the taxpaying citizens of St. John, expect different in terms of level of service as a result of this new collective agreement? Will there be any new, will they experience an enhancement in timelines, or will they enhancement in service, a quality of service? Are you able to illustrate that in any way by way of example?
A lot of the changes were internal in nature. However, CAO, if you have anything to add to that, those changes were a lot of economic changes and provisions that will increase efficiency internally as well. CAO, if there's anything else.
Maybe just to add, in terms of productivity, having people working statutory holidays when managers are working so that people are working together as opposed to forcing them to work on a day when we're not typically open for business is a good example of a small tweak in nature that brings better alignment in the overall organization. So these are minor tweaks overall, and we'll continue to work with the employee group to find opportunities for productivity gains and then service levels through our budget process in 2026.
Thank you, CAO, for, I guess, just kind of describing what the return is for citizens in terms of productivity. I think that just helps us give a better appreciation for what we can expect out there with the hardworking men and women of Local 18. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Commissioner Hossack is our Commissioner of HR, so it's great to have you here tonight. Great work to your team and Local 18's team. It was impressive, the time limit, so that's great. And I guess I'll say, having been at the city since 2012, I've had a good experience with working with Local 18, and like Councillor Radwan mentioned, they've, taken zeros in one of our tough times, and I was on that team when we were trying to create that structural budget. So they've been good to work with. So it's not surprising, I guess, to hear that you two have come to an agreement so quickly. So thanks to you, and thanks to their team as well. Appreciate it. Okay, so I have the motion on the floor, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Lowe, over to you. Thank you.